Hey people, I'm Ambica Grover. Welcome you to Knowledgepark. Today's topic is Romantic Age, which was from 1798 to 1837. This is also called Romanticism, and this was the age of imagination. In this age period, a mad and psycho king was ruling England. It was George III. This word romantic doesn't mean the same as it is now. At that time, Romanticism means imagination, inspiration, organism, freedom, individual and emotions, sincerity, supernatural liberty, fraternity, equality, influence of French Revolution. All these things makes this age romantic age. Now let's just check out the highlights of this age. These were American independence, French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, experimentation with poetic form, love for nature. Here, French Revolution influenced romantic poets. Now, the question arrives, why Romantic Age started? Romantic Age started because in last stages people become more civilized. There are two major reasons behind it, French Revolution and Industrial Revolution. So it was needed to change thinking. That's why poets wrote over the natural things to show, express their love of things and nature, to grab emotions. With this thought, writers started to acknowledge more themes like imagination, inspiration, emotions, equality, supernatural, liberty, fraternity, equality, organism, freedom, and individuals. These were the themes of this age. We should remember these points. Now let's have a look to first generation and the second generation of this age writers. The first generations, in this generation, Robert Burns, William Blake, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Walter Scott, Robert Southey, William Wordsworth, William Hazlitt, and Charles Lamb. These were the first generation writers, and the second generation writers were Jane Austen, Lord Byron, P.B. Shelley, John Keats, Mary Shelley. From first generation, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Walter Scott, Robert Southey, and William Wordsworth were the Lake poets. And Robert Southey was the poet laureate. And these four wrote lyrical ballads in 1798. This was the collection of poets or poems. In second generation, Jane Austen is important writer. She was a female writer. She wrote novels, and these novels were realistic, and after Shakespeare, she was the most readable writer. Lord Byron, P.B. Shelley, and John Keats. These were the writers who died in shortage age. They were handsome and challenged. First generation's writer. The four major writers I have talked about. Mary Shelley was the wife of P.B. Shelley, and John Keats was major writer or poet. Now the question arrives, how romantic literacy criticism worked. It was like the writers ignored rules and emphasized on basis of impressions. They were concerned with fundamentals, emphasized on imagination and emotions. New definitions of poetry are attempt pleasures than instructions. Imagination is based on creation and judgments. Poetic dictions and much influenced of Coleridge and Wordsworth. William Wordsworth. Preface to Lyrical Ballads. First edition was in 1800. Now, what was the definition of poetry according to Wordsworth? All good poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Poets' characteristics: sensitive, extraordinary imagination, man speaking to man, value of poetry, language and the human mind. Diction was figure of speech and the cultural concerns were promoting human culture. Second is St. Coleridge, Biographia Literaria. It was a critical work. Definition is fancy and imagination, poetry and poet, all forms of imaginative literature, poet as ideal perfections. Third one is P.B. Shelley, A Defense of Poetry. Definition, imaginative and ideal order. The question of value, radical and moral. He wrote drama, essay and novels. Let's have a look of some major other writers and their works. First generations, William Blake from 1757 to 1827. All religions are one in 1788, Songs of Innocence in 1798, There is no natural religion in 1788, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell 1719 to 93, Continental Prophecies in 1793 to 95, The French Revolution in 1791, Songs of Expressions or Experience in 1794, Poetical Sketches in 1783, and Fort Jaws in 1797, The Lamb and the Tiger. William Wordsworth in 1770 to 1850. He wrote descriptive sketches in 1793, lyrical ballads with a few poems in 1798, Guide to the Lake in 1810, lyrical ballads with other poets and poems in 1800, poems in 2 volumes in 1807, Benjamin and Wangonor in 1819, The Excursion in 1814, Landomia in 1815, Peter Bell in 1819, The White Doe and of Rystone in 1815, The Prelude in 1850, Ode to Duty, Resolution to and Independence, Intimations of Immorality. Samuel Taylor Coleridge from 1772 to 1834. He wrote Christabel Kubla Khan, A Vision, The Pain of Sleep in 1816, lyrical ballads with a few poems 1789, Fierce in Solitude in 1798, The Devil's Work, it was a poem in 1830, A Moral and Political Literature in 1795, Biographia Literaria or Biographical Sketch of My Literary Life and Opinions in 1817, Syllabiline Leaves in 1817, Aids to Reflections in 1825, Church and States in 1830, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. These were the works of Samuel Taylor. Robert Southey from 1774 to 1843. The Fall of Robespierre in 1794, after Blenheim in 1798, Joan of Arc. It was an epic poem from 1796. St. Anne Patrick's Purgatory in 1798, Macduff in 1805, The Curse of Kahama in 1810, The Incape Rock in 1820. Our next writer is George Godman Byron or Lord Byron, 1788 to 1824. He wrote Horse of Elderness in 1807, English Bards and Scotch Reviews in 1809, Child Horrors and Pilgrimage in 1818. Here is the second generation's poems or poets. P.B. Shelley from 1792 to 1822. He wrote Jestology in 1810, original poetry by Victor and Kazire in 1810, The Wandering Jew and 1810, published in 1877. Posthumous fragment of Margaret Nisblaun's being found and found all amongst the papers of that noted female who attempted the life of the king in 1786. It was published in 1810. Saint Irvine or the prosecution in 1811. The Necessity of Atheism in 1811, The Devil's Work, a ballad in 1812, Queen Mo, a philosophical poem in 1813, a refutation of deism in a dialogue 1814, Alastair or the Spirit of Solitude in 1815, Wallerstein or the Mysterious Bandit chapbook in 1822, A Demon of the World 1816, Montbellons in 1816, Hymn to Intellectual Beauty in 1817, Loan to Gaythenia or The Revolution of Golden City, a vision of 19th century. The Revolt of Islam, a poem in 12 cantos in 1817. History of 6 weeks tour through a poem of France, Switzerland, Germany, and Holland with Mary Shelley in 1817. Ozymandias in 1818. The Banquet or the Symposium by Plato, translation from Greek to English in 1818. Rosalind and Helen, a modern eclogue in 1818. Lines written among the Euganean hills in 1818. The Cenci, a tragedy in 5 acts in 1819. Ode to the West Mind in 1819. The Masque of Anarchy in 1819. England in 1819. A Philosophical View is Reform in 1819, published in 1920. Julian and Medallo, a Conversation in 1819. Peter Bell Interred in 1820, published in 1839. Prometheus Unbounded, a lyrical drama in 4 acts in 1820. To a Skylark in 1820. The Cloud in 1820. Ovidius Tyrannus or A Swallowfoot to the Tyrant, the Tragedy in 1820 in 2 parts. The Witch of Atlas in 1820, published in 1824. Adonis 1821. Given by Plato, Greek to English in 1821. A Defense to Poetry in 1821. Apicidium in 1821, Hellas, a lyrical drama in 1822, The Trump of Life, unfinished but 1822, and published in 1824, The Essentials, a fragment of romance in 1814, it was a prose, Coliseum, a fragment in 1817, it was also a prose, The Apicidian Field, a Lucinian fragment in 1818, and Ioanni Favola, a fable in 1819. These are the prose. Now, John Keats, from 1795 to 1821. Endymion 1818, a poetic romance. Lamia 1820, Isabella or the Pot of Basil in 1820, The Eve of St. Aegis in 1820, Hyperion, a fragment in 1818, The Fall of Hyperion, a dream in 1819. La Belle Dame, Saint Mercy, Otho the Great, a tragedy in 5 acts, King Stephen, a fragment of all the tragedies in 1819, Bright Star, Ode to a Grecian Yearn in 1819, Ode to a Nightingale in 1819, Ode to Autumn, Ode to Fancy, Ode to Psyche, Ode on Melancholy. These were in 1819. On the first looking into Chapman's Homer sonnets, Ode on Adolescence in 1819, Ode to Apollo in 1815. I stood tiptoe upon a little hill. O solitudes, if I must with three dual sonnet to Chatterton, sleep and poetry, imitation of Spenser, women, wine and snuff, fill for me a brimming bowl. These were the works by John Keats. Next writer is Walter Scott. Walter Scott was from 1771 to 1832. He belonged to first generation. His works were the Velvety novels, Velverily in 1814, Guy Meerding in 1815, Ivanhoe in 1819, Kenilworth in 1821, The Pirate in 1822, The Fortunes of Nigel in 1822, Peril of the Peak in 1822, Outing Dunwald in 1823, St. Romansville in 1824, Regnoldet in 1824, Tales of the Crusaders in consisting of the Betrothed and the Talisman in 1825, Woodstock in 1826, Anne of Gerstrim in 1829, The Siege of Malta in 1831 to 1832, and this was published posthumously in 208. Bizarro in 1832, Tales of My Landlord. First series, The Book, Dwarfed and Old Morality, 1816. Second series, The Heart of Miltarian, in 1818. Third, The Bright and Lemmermoon and A Legend of Montrose in 1819. Fourth, Count Robert of Paris and Castel Dangerous in 1832. Scott's poetries were translation and imitations from German ballads in 1796, The Mysteries of Scottish Border in 1802 to 1803, The Lay of the Last Minstrel, including Breathes, There Are Men, sometimes known as My Native Land or Patriotism, ballads and lyrical pieces in 1803, Merminian, including Young Lochinver in 1803, The Lady of the Lake 1810, The Vision of Don Roderick in 1811, The Bridal of Termin in 1813, Rogby in 1813, The Field of Waterloo in 1815, The Lord of the Island in 1815, Harold and Dauntless in 1817. Our next writer belonged to second generation, which is Jane Austen, from 1775 to 1817. She wrote Sense and Sensibility in 1811, Pride and Prejudice in 1813, Mansfield Park in 1814, Emma in 1815, Northanger Abbey in 1818. It was a posthumous Persuasion in 1818, Unfinished Work, The Watsons 1804, and Sanditon in 1817. Gothic novelist Anne Radcliffe from 1764 to 1823, The Castles of Athlin and Dunboyne 1789, The Silicon Romance in Volume 2nd from 1719. In 1719, The Romance of the Forest, Volume 3. In 1791, The Mysterious Mistress of Upalto, in Volume 4. In 1794, Italian, Volume 3. 1797. Gatson de Blandeville in Volume 4 in 1826. Mary Shelley. Mary Shelley was 1797 to 1851. She wrote History of 6 Weeks, toured through a part of France, Switzerland, Germany, and Holland, with descriptive of a sail round of Lake of Geneva and glaciers of Chamonix. In 1817, Frankston or a Modern Prometheus in 1818, Matilda in 1819, Valpurgo or A Life and Adventures of Castoria, Prince of Luck in 1823. The Last Man in 1826, The Fortunes of Perkin Wordwick in 1830, Lodore in 1835, Falkner in 1827. Do make notes on that and revise them weekly. Also, do like the video and subscribe the channel Knowledgepark and share it with your friends and literary people who are preparing for the same. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.